Why does your brain start looking for problems the moment your life finally becomes quiet? Imagine this. You've just arrived on vacation. The first week, everything feels calm. A sunny beach, or a quiet, cozy home. But instead of relaxation, a strange restlessness awakens. You don't know why, but you feel irritation, anxiety, dissatisfaction. What's happening? Why does your brain push chaos at you precisely when there is none outside? This phenomenon is called the silence signal. It's the brain's reaction to a lack of external stimulation, which activates something called the default mode network, or the DMN. The DMN is the brain's passive mode network. When it activates, it begins scanning both internal and external environments for potential threats. Even when you logically know nothing bad is happening, your brain, trained for years under stress and pressure, interprets silence differently. To it, silence means one thing: something is about to happen. Your nervous system behaves as if it's constantly preparing for battle. When we become used to chaos, calm doesn't feel like a reward. It becomes a trigger for alertness. Cortisol, adrenaline, stress hormones. They become the baseline environment your brain recognizes as normal. So when silence appears, it feels empty, as if something is missing. Here's the contradiction. Logically, we want rest. Biologically, our body isn't prepared for it. The DMN begins replaying past experiences, searching for potential problems. Meanwhile, the amygdala increases the anxiety response. Silence, which should bring peace, becomes a catalyst for inner tension. That's why the first week of vacation, a stable relationship, or unexpected calm at work can become a test for your nervous system. You may experience something called phantom anxiety, an unexplained urge to act, to fix something, to create problems, or to check the world for danger. A brain trained for high tension simply doesn't know how to react to the absence of stress. To understand this mechanism better, we need to look deeper at the default mode network. The DMN activates when the brain is not focused on external tasks, when the mind is simply with itself. Its job is to process past experiences, simulate possible futures, and predict threats. But in a life filled with constant stress, the DMN learns one rule: always expect danger. Which means calm feels like a void that must be filled with anxiety. Another consequence appears here: emotional imbalance. Our brain is designed to maintain homeostasis, emotional balance. But chronic stress shifts that balance. Silence can trigger a physiological withdrawal from adrenaline. You may feel irritation, anxiety, even mild sadness. These are biological reactions to a sudden shift in your nervous system's baseline. This is why some people describe the experience as self-sabotaging success. You finally achieve stability, and suddenly your brain starts searching for drama, because chaos feels familiar, and familiarity feels safe. So what exactly does the brain do? Directs the DMN to search for problems. The amygdala increases anxiety levels. Neurotransmitters stimulate the urge to act, to create small crises. And you feel a strange impulse to intervene, even when nothing is wrong. The cycle becomes predictable. Calm, anxiety, creating chaos, brief relief, and then it repeats. And this cycle leads us to the next phenomenon, the biology of high-stakes friction. Imagine your body as a machine, designed to run at maximum speed. When you live under constant stress, deadlines, conflicts, competition, responsibility, your brain releases large amounts of stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. These chemicals place the body in a state of permanent readiness. The heart beats faster, muscles tighten, attention sharpens, and the DMN constantly scans for threats. But what happens when stress suddenly disappears? When stability arrives? The brain interprets it as an anomaly, a void that must be filled. Chronic stress shifts the body's physiological baseline. This is known as emotional homeostasis under stress. For the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, high levels of stress hormones become familiar territory. Under normal circumstances, emotional homeostasis means balance. Balance between activity and rest, between alertness and relaxation. But in chronically stressed individuals, calm begins to feel like withdrawal. The body senses the absence of its usual hormonal background, so the nervous system begins searching for new sources of stimulation. Conflict, pressure, urgency, anything that restores the familiar state of tension. Another mechanism plays a role here: neuroplasticity. Over time, the brain physically adapts to stress. The amygdala becomes more sensitive to threats, the DMN becomes more active, and the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and self-control, becomes temporarily suppressed. The result is simple. The brain becomes excellent at detecting danger, but very poor at enjoying calm. The reward system also changes. The brain begins associating problem-solving with dopamine rewards, even if the problems are self-created. Solving them still produces the same chemical satisfaction. This explains a common experience. When everything is going well, some people feel restless, bored, irritated. Their nervous system is conditioned for emotional peaks. Without stress, the body may experience mild irritation, low motivation, apathy, and a subconscious search for new triggers, arguments, urgent tasks, drama. In today's world, this biological tendency becomes even stronger because of the digital environment. Social media platforms are designed to trigger dopamine spikes. Rage bait, doom scrolling, endless news feeds. All of them maintain the brain in a state of heightened stimulation, even when the stress is artificial. So the pattern becomes clear. Chronic stress rewires the brain. Calm begins to feel threatening, and chaos becomes strangely rewarding. Which leads us to the final stage of the mechanism, the self-sabotage cycle. You finally reach stability. Work without constant pressure, relationships without endless conflict, vacations without deadlines. Everything seems peaceful, and yet suddenly, a strange urge appears to create problems. Why? Because the brain has learned to survive in tension. Calm feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar can feel dangerous. This is where the self-sabotage cycle begins. Step 1. Silence triggers anxiety. The DMN scans for threats. The amygdala raises stress signals. Step 2. The brain begins searching for problems. Conflict, overwork, emotional drama, anything that restores tension. Step 3. a problem appears, and when it is solved, the brain releases dopamine, a brief feeling of control, relief, satisfaction. Step 4. The behavior becomes reinforced, and the cycle repeats. This explains why people sometimes ruin situations exactly when life is going well. Not intentionally, but biologically. And modern technology amplifies the effect. Endless feeds, notifications, outrage-driven content. All of it keeps the nervous system in a constant state of stimulation, which means stability begins to feel uncomfortable, while chaos starts to feel rewarding. Fortunately, the brain can change. A concept called the window of tolerance helps explain this. It describes the optimal zone where the nervous system feels safe and balanced. To reprogram the brain, several strategies help. Productive boredom. Spend short periods without stimulation. No phone, no notifications, no constant input. Let the brain experience silence again. Gradual desensitization. Start with small moments of calm. Slowly increase their duration. Teach the nervous system that silence is safe. Reframing success. Celebrate stability. Notice calm moments. Write them down. Over time, the brain begins associating peace with reward. Physical regulation. Breathing exercises, movement, meditation, time outdoors. These naturally lower stress hormones. Digital boundaries. Reduce exposure to outrage-based content. Create intentional breaks from stimulation. Allow the brain to recalibrate. When this process begins, silence stops feeling threatening, and chaos stops feeling rewarding. You learn to notice anxiety without reacting to it, create wins through stability, and retrain your nervous system to value calm. Eventually, something powerful happens. Calm stops feeling empty and starts feeling like freedom.